In Victory Road, Cool Trainer Diane has a lantern that knows Earthquake. Lantern doesn't actually learn the move Earthquake, so this was an interesting mistake by the developers. And as I was looking at this issue in the code, I noticed something else bizarre about Cool Trainer Diane. Cool Trainer Diane is really dumb, like dumber than youngster Calvin kind of dumb. This is because Cool Trainer Diane doesn't have any AI, another extremely rare anomaly she has. So let's find out why this is the case and many more obscure oddities in Pokemon Emerald. That 99.9% of viewers—
The thug is in.
In Pokemon Emerald, the majority of trainers have an AI flag that tell them to not make any egregious moves. This means that even though youngster Calvin is a Route 1 trainer, he still has knowledge to not use Tackle on my Ghost-type Duskull, unlike Cool Trainer Diane, who will gladly Earthquake my Tropius. Interestingly, there are a few more trainers that also lack this flag. Tuber Janny on the first floor of the abandoned ship, Ninja Boy Lung on the Spinder route, and then 3 different trainers on the 7th floor of the Trick House. What's interesting is that all of these trainers are a part of intended double battles, which is notable because in double battles, the trainers actually combine their AIs, meaning that these dumb trainers get the standard AI from their not dumb partners. Perhaps that's why the developers got lazy here, and while that would make sense, there's a trainer I haven't told you about yet. Ninja Boy Lao. Ninja Boy Lao is the last trainer without any AI, and stands out as not being an intended double battle, so I don't think that's the reason these trainers were left behind. What is interesting though is that 4 of these trainers are all next to each other in Emerald's code, despite being so far away on the map. Perhaps another clue to what has happened. As for the 3 trainers in the Trick House, they interestingly are the last trainers on the list in Pokemon Emerald's code, so maybe they just forgot to code them. I didn't forget about you, Gentleman Everett. I guess we'll never know the reason for the lack of AI flags, but it's funny nonetheless to see Tuber Janny's Marill use Bubble Beam on my Vaporeon over and over again. So as I was looking at these Trick House trainers in this ever-deepening rabbit hole, I found a fascinating history of a Trick House soft lock. The Trick House is a location on Route 110 that is completely optional to enter. It features pretty simple floor puzzles where you gotta find a code and make it to the end and receive the Trickmaster's gift. A pretty innocent side challenge, all things considered. But what if I told you that you could enter the Trick House and never escape? If you're really thorough and dumb and want to, of course. On floor 4 of the Trick House, the puzzle features boulders that require you to use strength to move them, and interestingly, they changed the layout of the floor in the English version. Because of the Japanese version, if you simply move this boulder to the right, you can't progress and have to restart. So to fix this, they removed that boulder and made 2 of the passageways wider. Surely enough to prevent a soft lock, right? Well, in a Glitch Cities thread from 2014, Lucky Typhlosion theorized a way to trap oneself on the floor, with no way out. He made a complete diagram of what moves to do, and everyone just assumed it worked, until 1 year later, Evie, also known as Chickasaurus GL, decided to investigate and see if it really worked, which shockingly, it didn't. Turns out that if you move far away enough from specifically the bottom left boulder across this line, that the boulder's position will reset, allowing a way of escape. And so with this video, they thought it was over. No new soft lock in Pokemon Emerald. But then, Alt Falcon comes on the scene and details how you actually can trap yourself in the Pokemon Emerald English version, while also finding a new trap in the Ruby and Sapphire and the Japanese Emerald version. There was a comment on the original Chickasaurus video that wondered, what if someone reversed Typhlosion's plan so that maybe the bottom left boulder wouldn't reset? And Alt Falcon executed and recorded the first instance of the soft lock. And as we watch the rest of it, what makes this beautiful to me is the grainy footage, the single letter profile picture, 3 subscribers, 800 views. It's so pure, it feels so old school, and to me, it's Pokemon Emerald greatness. So I then went 3 floors up in the Trick House where we find 3 of the previously mentioned no AI trainers and looked into one of them, Psychic Mariella. She has a Chimecho, which doesn't seem like a big deal until you realize she's the only trainer with a Chimecho and only found in Pokemon Emerald. It got me thinking how insanely easy it would be to play through this entire game and not see a single Chimecho. The only trainer is this one on the 7th floor of an optional side quest with minimal prizes, and to even get there you have to have all 8 gym badges. And if we look to where you could find Chimecho in the wild, it's only a 2% chance at the peak of Mount Pyre. This is expounded by the fact that you aren't even incentivized to explore this area, because when one reaches the exterior of Mount Pyre, you'd of course go to the grass and see what's there, see a bunch of Shuppet, Duskull, and Vulpix, and then when you go to the peak, you might do the same. You'd probably see a Shuppet or two, assume it's the same group of wild Pokemon, and move on with your day. This is assuming you even explore those grass patches in the first place, which, as I said, are pretty hidden. And in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, you have a team leader telling you where they are going next, which discourages the player from ever exploring the area. If James didn't have one in the anime, or if it wasn't in the Battle Frontier, I'm not sure many would have known of this Pokemon's existence. Which got me thinking. How could one know about Chimecho's existence without ever seeing one in a battle and no NPCs to talk about its existence? And that's what I thought as I stood still at the top of Mount Pyre, and then I heard something in the background. Did you hear that? That was a Shuppet's cry. An ambient cry. And it got me thinking, ambient cries, how do they work? Could you ever hear a Chimecho in the wild and then think to yourself, there's a Pokemon here I haven't seen before? Well, this is what I uncovered. Every time you enter a route with wild encounters, you'll be able to hear an ambient Pokemon cry in the background. The first cry will play 20 to 60 seconds from when you enter a route, and what cry it will be is based on the same percentage table for wild encounters. For example, on Route 113, where there is a 70% chance to encounter Spinda, the ambient cry for that route is also Spinda 70% of the time. And this percentage is re-rolled every time you enter a route. But here's where it gets fascinating. For one, they coded it so that the volume and pan of a cry is random, and on top of that, if you have a Pokemon with the ability Swarm as your party lead, you will hear ambient cries twice as much. Like, what? Why did they put this in the game, and how would anybody have figured this out without the Emerald decomp? The depth doesn't stop here though, as if you're on a route with land and water encounters, the game decides that there will be an 80% chance you hear a land encounter and a 20% chance you hear a water encounter, and only after that check will it then decide which cry it is based off of the wild encounter percentage table. What's also fun is that you can only hear the water encounters while on the water, but not vice versa. So sometimes you may just never hear an ambient cry when traversing through certain routes. This does lead to some pretty cool stuff though. Like on this route, you have a 1% chance to encounter Goldeen while surfing. So multiply 1% by 20%, which is the odds you hear a water encounter, and you get a 1 in 500 chance that the ambient cry is Goldeen. This also means that if you get the 1 in 65,000 chance for Mirage Island to appear, you can hear a Wynot in the background on the route, not even having to be on the island itself. So yeah, that's honestly it. I hope you enjoyed this journey as much as I did. It's one I went on in my Discord, The Berg, where sometimes we dive into the most inconsequential facets of Pokemon Emerald. It's a neat place and I think you should join it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.